This is Robbie Illuminati, the motherfucking op killer, and your eyes, ears, mind, body, and soul are checking out the 3 Count Podcast.
When in it, an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
Dang, high pass, we find that drag ball.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, and you can call me your Sherpa because I'm the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, you got to have someone who's been there, done that, and can show you the way, or even show you how to get up there faster or just more efficiently. And so it's never about me, it's about who's entering the ring. And today, this man can be found at STWA. You can find this man at EWA. You can find this man at ACWA, Voltage, PWF, Outbreak, and WDWA. This is the handsome devil himself, Jason Drake.
Hey, what's up, bud? Good to be talking to you finally. I feel like we've been trying to schedule this for like ever. So the handsome devil, Jason Drake, is finally on the 3 Count Podcast.
That's man. See, like, look, the handsome devil has finally showed up. One half of the founding group known as Riot City. It is an honor to have you here finally after a year of trying.
Hey, man, you know how it is. Life's just, it's crazy. You try to make plans fall through. Then when you're free, I'm not free. When I'm free, you're not free.
I know.
I got a weird schedule. I apologize.
we have like, it is definitely one of those like hit and miss kind of situations, because it'd be funny because like even at training, it's like you're showing up and I'll be leaving, or I'm leaving, you're showing like
Exactly. You know, it's the wrestling business. It's never going like it feels like it never goes to plan, as it were. It just magic happens somehow.
Man, it is this is like the first time in like anywhere in life, right, that I've been where cards subject to change literally happens all the time.
Oh yeah, no, that's like it's a saying on the, like, I feel like it's like always on the flyer, but it's more like life subject to change. If you're a pro wrestler, like you just got to be ready to evolve, adapt. It's a lesson in adaptability, very much.
It really is. It's really, and you're always being taught like something new, but then like you gotta learn it on the fly. And if you don't learn on the fly, people yell at you and they're like, well, I showed you how to do that last time. I'm like, yeah, man, like I'm just not gonna pick it up.
I mean, especially when you're young coming up, I feel like you're going like, yeah, I mean, I was trying to learn that one new thing we were learning, but I was also trying to make sure that the 20 other things we learned the last month or two stuck and looked better than they did the week before. So you're so bogged down in what you got learned. Someone's like, here's a new nugget. And you're like, I'm still working on what I got. Give me a minute.
Like, listen, man, I can only smoke so much, man. I can't take all this nuggets of knowledge all at once.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's so like what my friend said, man. He's always like when I was working at GameStop over in Georgia, he used to always just ask me the random question, but he'd always be like, how do you eat an elephant? I'm like, why would I want to eat an elephant? He's like, you do it one bite at a time. I was like, you could do that with a steak too, but yeah, I guess like I get your
Yeah,
point.
I mean, I guess like I feel like that's how do you take 2 bites at a time? I mean, you just keep biting without swallowing, I guess, but I feel like most things are 1 bite at a time if you're not trying to choke.
Right.
So,
So my
Very
first
true.
question, man, I gotta
Elephants.
hit you with this first question, man. I'm like, who is Jason Drake?
So that's a tricky question. I guess Jason Drake, you know, if we're talking about it as who am I as an individual, performer through and through. I like to entertain, whatever it is. You know, I found wrestling after music. I did music for years. I write, I do photography and stuff. I just like to create. And so wrestling is one of those realms where I know we think of it as being very athletic, because it is. You know, your body goes through so much in wrestling, but the ability to create within wrestling is really cool too. So I'd say Jason Drake is an entertainer, a creator, and a performer. As a character, though, you know, Jason Drake just wants to go out there and hear the crowd roar. When I'm playing the face, it's more about like I want to hear the crowd roar. I'm gonna go jump off the highest thing I possibly can, go do whatever number of flips I can. Like, my repertoire move set is very flashy. I made it that way to sort of elicit a response without having to go and be like, I'm gonna go to the top rope and do a triple backflip and break my neck. I'm like, I'm gonna save that for the more athletic guy, but I'll go out there and I like to hit some flashy stuff, some sling blades, some flipping neck breakers, some just different stuff. But when I'm a heel, it's kind of like an inverse of that. As much as I'm willing to go out there and work for the crowd as a face, as a heel, when Jason Drake breaks that ring, he feels like you should be cheering for him, and if you're not, he's immediately pissed off. Like. He's giving it to you. He's giving it to the ref, giving it to the crowd, like whoever it is. That's the heel Jason Drake. Like why aren't you cheering at me? Or if you're booing at me, you're pissing me off, and I'm gonna let you hear about it.
I like it.
Pardon me. Allergies, brother. They are a nightmare.
You're gonna be like something like off of Us. Was that movie Hitch? Where he's just like.
Oh, dude, I'm not that bad. Sipping on the Benadryl when his eyes all one side, like
one puffy ear.
Yeah, one puffy ear, puffy side of his face.
I thought that was like one of my favorite insults of like all time when Ava Mendes goes, "Yeah, I know this new restaurant is called."
Oh no, that's a good one. That was a good movie. We were just talking about that because I was at a wedding last night. And we were trying to explain like the groom's dance level. And my buddy and I both can kind of dance. I blame it on the fact that I was a musician, so I can dance. He's just got groove. But our buddy who's the groom, Charlie, we're trying to explain to my buddy's girlfriend, like his dance level. She's like, how bad is it? I was like, it's not really bad, but I was like, just think Kevin James when Hitch is trying to go over the dance moves. And he just keeps like busting out the dice and the sprinkler and the Q-tip. I said, that's Charlie making the pizza. Like that's Charlie on a dance floor. And he did not disappoint. Like sure enough, he busted out all of it. And I remember I looked across the wedding, looked across the dance floor at her, and I went, I told you. But so it's funny that you bring up Hitch because I was just talking about it 2 days ago on Saturday.
I have a good friend. We were in the military, and he like me. I can dance. Like I have some groove, and actually, Chaz, our mutual friend, can attest to this because at his wedding, like I was in his groom's dance party. But back when I was in Hawaii, my buddy Mike, he was from the sticks of Sacramento, and he would always talk about. He's like, oh, I just want to be able to dance like those guys in the movies. And we're like, bro, your dance step right now is just 90-degree elbows and 6 to the right, 6 left. Don't get crazy. That's your only zone for right now. And my damn man, like by the time we left Hawaii, bro, my man was like hitting b-boy stances. And
Oh,
4 years of being on the island, I was like, all right, bro, like you're on another level of.
Hey man, if you can get there, you go for it, right?
He's all like showing off for girls, talking about. He's like, yeah, I'm into hip hop dance, and this is what I do. I was like, bro, you don't know dick about dance. Stop it. So how did you get into the sport, man?
So it's funny. As I said, I didn't really I didn't start in wrestling as far as performing and entertaining. I started in music. I was a front man for a band, jumping around from band to band from the time I was 15 to the time I was about 20, maybe 21, somewhere in there. But what ended up happening was my band broke up at the time. It was very frustrating because, when you put in, like, it was like 3.5 years, we'd gotten an EP going. Second EP was in the works. We were planning on doing a tour up and down the East Coast. We'd opened up for some label bands and label shows, like tour dates in the local areas. So that was really cool. And then just to have like 3 or 4 members be like, yeah, we don't really want to do it anymore. It's just like, oh, okay. Like that's all I still want to do it. And they're like, well, we don't want it anymore. It's like, well, you can't do anything then. So
Right.
I haven't found another band yet, still looking around. And I'd been watching wrestling from the time I was about 10 or 11. I was just, son to the eldest son of a single mother. So fitting in wrestling, trying to watch it was very tough, especially as growing up in the 90s. Like, your mom didn't want you watching the Attitude Era, especially not as a single mother, because my brother would have been hit with so many like chairs and thrown into stuff if I'd gotten a hold of it when I was young. So I mean, I see what she was saying. But I knew what Impact was. I knew what WWE was. Well, my buddy Rayburn, Nick Cortisis, the wrestling fans will know him as Rayburn. I knew from college. He and I both went to Carroll Community College, and he told me he did wrestling. I always thought that was so cool. And we just been talking about a time when I was going to be able to come see him do it. Just hadn't lined up, just schoolwork, all kinds of tests, finals, midterms, all that crap. Just busyness, work, what have you. So fast forward, I show up at this party with the girl I was talking to at the time. We're still friends. My buddy Hillary. Show up at this party. And down the steps comes Rayburn, like an hour and a half into us hanging out there, me kind of meeting and mingling a couple people. I know a couple from school, not many others, don't really know anybody. Well, down comes Rayburn, and I go, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "This is my wrestling trainer's house. Like, what are you doing here?" And I went, "BS." And Nick goes, "No, dude, I trained him to wrestle," because Nick Taylor, it was his house we were at. I met him that night, and I was kind of just starting to meet him when Rayburn walked down. And he goes, "Yeah, I trained him to wrestle." I went, "BS." And this is Nick Taylor, a.k.a. Sickened, for all the wrestling fans. And I went, "BS." And he goes, "I've got a ring in my backyard." I went, "BS." And he goes, "Grab your beer and let's take a walk." Sure enough, take a walk back there. I see the skeleton of the ring is set up, which is just, the metal, the side rails, the cross beams, and the posts. None of the wood, none of the, canvas or pads, anything that's all in the shed. And I went, "Whoa." And he goes, "So you like wrestling?" Yeah. And I went, "Yeah." He's like, "Who's one of your favorites?" I was like, "Jeff Hardy." Because I was like, dude coming out tatted up to a rock song, going out flipping off something. I was like, that's awesome. So he was always my favorite. And Nick goes, "Well, next time you want to play Jeff Hardy, you let me know. We train on Sundays." Fast forward about a month later, kicking it around, just kind of, I hit him up. I said, "Hey, you guys training today?" He said, "Yeah." Went out there, rest is sort of history. At the end of the training, he said, "You picked this up a lot faster than a lot of the people that I train. It's this much money. If you want to do this, let me know." And I just stuck with it. I said, why not give it a shot? I was frustrated at, not being able to get on a stage with a band. And I was looking for another creative outlet. And I'd always loved wrestling and just the athleticism, the showmanship. Just, it looked like so much fun, like being a character too. And as even at 21, like I knew, even though it was like staged, like I knew it was theater. Like I knew people even though I knew they got hurt, like I knew it was a story. So I thought I could really have fun with it. Just telling stories, being creative, all that stuff, and then not to my own horn, I was always like that one kid that would go and flip off something when I was younger. So like, sure enough, I messed with Sickened very quickly. We started having fun. Is like very much lucha style. But sort of that's how I found the business. At that time, all I knew was WWE, and I knew what Impact or TNA. I don't remember which one it was at the time. I knew that. And Nick handed me a DVD and went, "This is what indie wrestling is. Watch this and bring it back." And it was PWG, Steen Wolf, and the final match was like the El Generico, Kevin Steen, Ladder War #3 or whatever. And it just was like blew my mind. I was like, where was all this on WWE? These guys are crazy. And so I just wanted to just, more and more and more, as much as I could get. I started raiding Nick's DVD cabinet, closets, everything he had, he had like 4 or 5, like those big giant, disc cases. And I was like, yeah, I'm just taking these. Like everything I could pick up, everything I could learn, I just started like eating it all up and just, as much as I could get.
I like
so,
it.
I mean, it's long, but that's kind of how I found the business and got into it.
Man, listen, this is your show. Like I'm just here to facilitate. Like you could tell
Oh,
me
I
the
see.
story. You could be long-winded about it. I don't really care. I'm just enjoying what I get to hear. It's funny though, man, because like even for me, right? Because you mentioned Sicken, right? And
Hmm.
like and we train together, so obviously.
Yeah,
And
for
what
sure.
makes it funny was like I've always been a fan of the business, and I just randomly met a friend at the gym, and he was like, "Yeah, he said I'm a wrestler," and I was like, "Oh, like amateur?" He's like, "Well, not exactly." It's like pro? And he's like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So clearly now I now know he's a backyarder. So he was like, "Yeah, but the point is, I want to be able to person that you can jump off and then go into the pro if you want to." I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And then like we kind of just left it at that. And then randomly I started seeing him in grocery stores, and I was like, "Yo, what do you do? Where are you at?" And he was just like, "Oh, I'm here. Come to our show." So I was like, "All right, cool." So I show up to this building, and there's a ring, and these guys are like going in there taking bumps, and I'm just watching, and I see a few people, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then like randomly, one of the dudes, Josh Dreamer, was like, you shouldn't be here. He's like, I just want to tell you, you should go find Nick. And everybody kept saying Nick. I was like, who the fuck is Nick?
Mhm.
And so like then like randomly at like one of the last shows, right, that the backyards were running, I was with him, and Kindred showed up, and Kindred was like, if you're gonna go pro, go, it's time to go now. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Van was like, yeah, I'll see you there on Sunday. And I was like, I'll be there in January. And then the first week of January came. I hit up Nick in like November, and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna see you in November, because I want to just take some time to kind of like let stuff go. And then I met Nick in January, and yeah, I started training, and I never left.
Hey man, I mean, it's funny because there's so many people who I hear talk about finding Nick at a show or they'd seen him wrestle, and it was always funny because I'm like, I was just drinking some beers with him, and our other buddy showed up. He went, "Yeah, I teach him to wrestle." Like, no idea he was a wrestling trainer. I was literally at his house for just like a hangout bonfire party, like like Nick throws.
Yeah.
And the ring was just like on the other side. It was actually the way we set it up is to like the side of the shed, like the side, like right in front of the shed now. It was all the way in the back corner where the trampoline used to sit.
Right.
So it was like way, way back, and you wouldn't be able to see it if you were just hanging out. So I had no idea until he dragged me over. It was just one of those things where it's just like, things click, you meet people. And yeah, like you said, the wrestling business, like always cards subject to change. I felt like that was my life at that point. Was like, all right, we're gonna do music, we're gonna do music, we're gonna do music. And then I met my wrestling trainer, and I was like, this is awesome.
This is where I belong. Yeah, that trampoline, that poor trampoline. Hey, Jeremy, when you decide to watch this episode, thanks a lot, Showtime, for busting our trampoline.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Showtime Grimes. I used to do my dives onto that. I haven't been able to practice dives in months. Thank you.
Thanks,
So kind.
thanks, bud. Didn't want to fix it. So I'm curious, man, because you've been in the business for a while. You did take a break for a little bit, then you got back in. But I gotta know, man, what's the worst bump you've taken?
So there have been a couple gnarly ones. There was one that was like I've had a full-on knockout, which was not fun. But I don't remember that one. So I don't know. Like obviously I don't remember what happened. I'll tell you what happened. There's like three, maybe two bumps that were like really I noticed bad, and then there were like two other ones in the last like year that have been like, ooh. Uh, but a quick rundown. So the worst one I think I took was the knockout. Um, we were training, and I was running a practice match for a promoter. Just running it back with my buddy Joe. And one of my moves is a rough rider from the top. And at the time, I think I was using that as a finish. As I said, this is a while back. It's probably like 3 years in for me, and I'm almost about 8 years now. So I go for the rough rider, and the spot is he's going to catch it and drop me into a sit out power bomb. well, you know how it goes sometimes, like the landing isn't always stable, especially when you're jumping from the top rope and someone's catching you in a move. It was kind of one of those like, I caught and I landed a little awkward, and rather than setting, which isn't anything against him, sometimes it's just that you catch and you go, but I just landed funny, and so my balance was a little bit off. So when he whipped me down, my head whipped back, and just I don't remember the rest. The next thing I remember was walking to Nick's backyard, like walking to the back door to go in and grab some water and everything, with Mocha Steve. That's the next thing I remember. What they told me happened was they said and Mocha Steve was reffing. They said I kicked out. I looked at Steve. I said, I want to keep going. I sold up to the corner. And this is actually like I stayed somehow. I don't know how this is, because I know like sometimes in a match, like when I was real young, I'd get like, what's the next spot? What's the next spot? Apparently knocked out me can remember the spots and continue the match, because I stuck to the scripts even though I was knocked out. So I get knocked out, I kicked out, I tell this ref I want to keep going. I get to my feet in the corner. Joe runs at me. I roll out of the way, do like a little front roll out of the way. I run at him. He up and overs me to the outside on the apron. Turns around, does the whole like, oh, I got him. Oh, crap, he's not done yet. Runs back in at me. I duck, give him a shoulder check, slingshot my way into the ring and curb stomp him. And then I climb back to the top rope and I do the Rough Rider again. And I pin him 1, 2, 3. And then I get out of the ring, and that's when Nick looked at me and he's like, uh-oh, like gave me the old John Cena, like, hello, are you here? The old, can you see me? Can you see anything? And no, I was like, lights on, no one was home. And he's like, yeah, take him down, like sit him down, like make sure he's okay. And it was when they were walking me down to like go sit down and chill out. That's when I started coming to. And they're like, where are you? And I'm like, Nick's, what day is it? Sunday. What were you doing? I was like, jumping at Joe. And they're like, what do you remember? I was like, jumping at Joe. I was like, I don't remember anything else. Let's see. The next really big one I had was at ACW Atomic Championship in PA. I was wrestling one Robbie Marino or Robbie Illuminati from Blackout, whatever he's going by. And there was just a spot. I remember we were talking about it, and it was like, he wanted me to turn myself inside out on the Rainmaker gimmick. But we were dealing with a guy back then named Rockin' Rebel. And I told Robbie, I was like, Robbie, if you're going to throw this move and you want me to backflip, like, I need you to give me your arm. Because I need the ability to, like, I need the free movement to backflip. And Rebel was telling him to give me a shoulder because it was safer for him to give me a shoulder. And it's just like, dude, and I told him, I said, if I hit your shoulder, I'm not, like, my body is not going to be able to, like, freely flip backwards. Like, I'm going to catch my legs or my hip on your hip, and I just don't think I'm going to get the free movement. So he's like, all right, I'll hit you with my arm. And I guess, like, either Rebel had said something before him after the match or whatever, but he goes, and he'd already haluva kicked my head off once. I love Robbie to death, but he was like, don't put your hand up. You'll be fine. I'll catch the shoulder. It was just, like, through my face. I was like, Robbie, I love you, but oh my God. Like, he goes for this Rainmaker, and I don't know if either he slipped or what happened, but like, he gave me a shoulder instead of his arm, and I still went to try and whip the backflip, and instead it was like I spike pile drive myself, like, unassisted. It was just my own body weight, and everything was just head. I think I slurred my speech for an hour and a half, and Nick was not very happy because he was ringside, he was managing. And he wasn't exactly thrilled. But, accidents happen. When you're moving full contact, things happen. It's you get one shot to try it. Like, as I said before, like, I don't blame anybody for it. It was just one of the things, shit happens. Me and Robbie have wrestled since then in many a tag match, and they've gone completely fine with no problems whatsoever. It's just, one of those things. It's a wrestling business. I always tell people, I'm like, there are guys who get paid millions and do this every night who have broken bones and botched. So, like, we're going to have an accident or two here and there when we're out in this ring just moving. You know what I mean? It's bound to happen in the hundreds of matches we've done. So that was one where it was just like, ooh, I remember landing on my head, and it was just not fun. But as I said, I don't know if Rebel had said something to him beforehand, or if it was just one of those things where he was Rebel said in the moment, or what have you. He's done that move 100 times since, and it always looks amazing. Still love Robbie. So that's not me talking trash or anything. I don't want anybody thinking that. So the third one I got was just a nasty power bomb at Outbreak when just power bomb, guy went up for it, stumbled a little bit back, went to shoot it down. As he didn't get me all the way up, kind of shot me down, back of the head gimmick. And then another one was this weekend, power bomb from my boy Beastman. I hit some Legos that Nick had dumped out, and I wasn't planning to bump on Legos that night. And instead, I ended up, Ron flying teabagged me to the rocks on the outside of the ring because it was an outdoor bar show. And there was just it was grabbling rocks around the one side. And of course, I was like, Ron, why did you tackle me on that side of the ring? He's like, that's where hard cam is. And I'm like, all right, fine, that's where hard cam is. So I guess you're gonna flying nutsack me by hard cam because it was a West Coast pop. But of course, all his weight is coming down. And I just went thud right onto rocks, and I just went, oh my God, ow. Fast forward later that night, Ron drags me into the ring to go save Nick, and Beastman throws his bone, and I go, all right, cool, take the bump. It's just a bone. Bump right onto Legos. And I was just like, I hate life. Then I get up and I got power bombed onto Legos again. And it was one of those things where it's like, after you've worked a match and then you unexpectedly run into a match after you've been just hanging out, you're uncalled, and you just run in and you start taking bumps, unplanned, the adrenaline's not there yet. I felt it all. So I think that was part of it. I think it was definitely part of it was the fact that the adrenaline wasn't there because I just ran the hell in unplanned. But yeah, I just remember being like, I hate Legos. Never again. Nick can keep the Legos to himself. I don't want any part of it.
He could keep all the Legos. I know that's his thing. Everybody keep telling me that yeah, he's the Lego man. I'm like, good. Keep him. I don't want nothing to do with him. He's like, what about big? I was like, forget your big blocks, forget everything, man. I don't want none of it.
And he swears up and down that they feel better than thumbtacks. And so I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I've seen tons of people take thumbtacks. I haven't seen a ton of people take Legos. And I stepped on a Lego before because I've got siblings.
Yeah. I've got a daughter, and she leaves her Legos out sometimes, and it's hard at night to walk. And I just step on one, bro. I want to curse at the sky. Oh
my God, yeah.
I just want to run in her room and just throw Legos at her.
You know what? Fuck.
Just throw them on the ground. You walk across these at night when you can't see. You will know my pain.
You're like, you know what? I'm gonna leave him outside of her bed, so if she has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, just
yeah, sucks, don't it? Yo, so it's funny because you mentioned somebody. We've had him on the show a couple times actually, and you mentioned him. And I've mentioned this to everybody. I was like, anybody who's worked in the DMV, right, has this knack of knowing Ron Holiday.
yeah.
And I feel like every person has a really good Ron Holiday impression.
Dude, I feel like it's really funny because you know how when they did the whole some other podcasts, they're like, we're gonna do the Dusty Rhodes impersonation. I feel like if you're a DMV podcast, you could do all right, everybody has it. Everybody has to do the Ron Holiday impersonation.
Yeah.
Easily.
Everybody has to.
Dude, I will never forget working him at Crazy Shays. And have I told you this story before about the time that I lost to him at Crazy Shays? I was supposed to lose to him. It's one of the best stories I have of just, once again, card subject to change and more in the back, just learning to do things on the fly. So I haven't worked Ron in this company before. I've worked Ron a couple times in battle royals and tag spots and this, that, and the fourth across the years up to this point. But this is the first time in this area. I think it was like Carlisle, PA, for Crazy Shay's company. And it was like, I think it's Asylum Pro Wrestling. And it was like the first time I'd worked Ron. And he was a heel at the time. And so I called it an easy, basic, simple heel like opening. I was like, I was like, we'll go for the lot. And this is something that I do sometimes, just when I'm feeling like being a real jerk. And I'm like, I'm going to do easy and establish heel. And it's fun and simple. And everybody gets mad. You go to lock up. The heel ducks. Face gets annoyed. Second time. Heel ducks. Face gets annoyed. Third time. Heel ducks. Face gets really annoyed. Turns around exasperated. When he turns around, the face or the heel's waiting for him, slap across the face. Heel talks smack for a minute and then gets like charged into the ropes or whipped off while he's talking smack, not looking at the face who's just got slapped in the mouth. And of course, any good faces at that point just gonna fire up and like either give the dude some shots, whip him off, something. So we call that spot with Ron. Mr. Ronald Holiday decides to blow out my eardrum with this slap because he cups his hand over my ear. And when I say it sounded like a gunshot went off, I'm not exaggerating. It hurt like hell. I put my head down, and I'm pretty sure Ron immediately knew that he'd effed up because I tackle him into the ropes, charge him into the ropes, and I whip him off, and I go to throw the drop kick. He early bumps it. I go to throw the second drop kick. He early bumps it again. So at this point, I'm like, he's running. He knows I'm trying to kick him. So we call the second drop kick. He's going to powder the outside.
What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count_pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there you can leave us a message and we will talk to you. Basically what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count podcast also has merchandise. At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.